psychic medium here in Omaha, and I want to just say thank you so much for coming, and I wish you all would have brought a friend. You did. It'd be really sad if you didn't. So again, I thank you so much, and we're going to talk about UFOs and extraterrestrials today. I am a psychic medium, and that was a secret that I held for many, many years out of fear of judgment. And everybody has secrets that they don't want to tell, and it is for fear of ridicule. A lot of times it's because they're embarrassed about their past behavior, and they keep these secrets hidden. And I had secrets most of my life, and it took until I was in my 50s to finally claim that I was a psychic medium. But I held on to the biggest secret of all, and that is I have had contact with extraterrestrials. And I've had that contact since I was the age of 5. Now try springing that on a little girl. It started, like I said, at the age of 5 with an NDE, or a near-death experience. I was so sick. My whole family had had the flu and gotten over it. It was absolutely no problem. And mine was unrelenting and would not let go. And after 5 days of constant vomiting and being so sick, my mother actually propped me upside down on the sofa because I was vomiting so often and so much. And she had a big, like a bucket at the end of the sofa so I could keep vomiting into that. And finally, after day 5, she called the doctor. And the doctor said, get her to the hospital and get her there right now. I was dehydrated and on the verge of death. So they brought me into the hospital, and they jury-rigged a bed and made it kind of a V shape like this because they put ice all through the bed and then put a blanket on top to help bring my temperature down and cool me off. And there was a nurse who was just lovely, right at the top of my head, and she kept feeding me orange soda. And I loved orange soda. As a 5-year-old girl, you know, something other than Kool-Aid or milk, score, it was awesome. And she just kept force-feeding me this orange soda. And there was a point, and I was paralyzed, and all I could do was look around. Like that, I couldn't move anything because I was so sick. And I remember thinking, this is really odd. Why can't I move? And all of a sudden, the nurse is paralyzed too. She's not moving at all. And I thought, something is terribly wrong here. And I saw a doctor walk in the room, but it was a doctor like I'd never seen before. He had on a white lab coat and a stethoscope hanging out of his back pocket, or side pocket, excuse me. And it put off a glare that was so bright. And the thing is, there were no lights in my room. There was no ambient light from the hallway. There was no noise. There was nothing. And this doctor came in with this glaring light, and what it did is diffuse his face, so I couldn't see it. And he came and sat next to my bed, and telepathically he talked to me. And he said, you will always be safe, and you will always be protected. And believe me, in the following decades, I tested that. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, girl. I did it all. The next day, my parents came, and they said, we almost lost her last night. And I didn't know that I had almost died that night till almost 40 years later. And my mom told me that. And she says, yeah, the doctor said we almost lost her last night. And I was shocked. And it took hypnosis for me to finally figure out that it was a gray, a traditional gray. The thing is extraterrestrials have the ability to camouflage and appear however they want to appear. And this one happened to appear as a doctor. But under hypnosis, it became very clear on the other side were 2 other grays that were there to assist as well, and telling me I would always be safe and protected. It was not scary, it was comforting, but there was something in my brain that said, woohoo, let's party. And I spent a good portion of my life testing the limits of being safe and protected. And there were physical anomalies along the way. And it took, years, decades for me to realize, first of all, that I was even psychic medium. And then about 25 years after that, to finally put it together that I've had extraterrestrial contact. As an adult, the first thing that I really remember that was so bold, I was 30 years old, and for some reason I've never wanted to have children. Call me crazy, it's gonna, the natural human experience to want to have children, and I was deathly afraid of having a child. And people would tell me, Christy, we've got good news, we're pregnant. And I'm like, oh my God, what are you gonna do? That was always my first reaction. I mean, how crazy is that? And then I'd backpedal and go, oh yeah, good news, that's fabulous. So I decided I was gonna have my tubes tied at age 30. And that was my birthday present to myself, is to get my tubes tied. And shortly after, about 2 weeks after having my tubes tied, I had a rare Sunday afternoon off, and I was lying in my bed, and 3 aliens popped into my bedroom. This was a Sunday afternoon, I was wide awake, and 3 popped in. And it was a female and 2 males. And the female, she looked very Cleopatra looking, with the dark hair and the bangs, and the 2 gentlemen looked similar, but they looked like they could be father and son. And with that dark Egyptian looking, they actually look like they could have come right out of the cast of Star Trek. Because again, they can make them look however they want to look. And on some level, I guess they thought that would be comfortable for me, although popping into my bedroom in the middle of the day, not scary at all. But what they did is they paralyzed me again. And I absolutely could not move. And it was happening so fast that I wasn't scared, I was just trying to assimilate what was happening to me. And they flipped me over onto my stomach, lifted me up from my waist, and did an exam. And there was nothing I could do about it. They were talking to me telepathically, and I understood everything they said. They wanted to make sure that they still had access to my eggs. And they realized that having my tubes tied blocked the fallopian tube, but it didn't stop me from producing eggs. And so they left. Once they figured that out, I could just feel, okay, she's fine, we can still get at her. And they left. And I woke up, or was able to move then, and I was on my hands and knees on my bed, trying to figure out what had just happened to me. Am I crazy? Can I tell anybody this? Will they think I'm crazy? Can they have me committed? All of these thoughts were running through my head. And I decided to talk to a friend and tell her, and she was kind enough to go, yes, I believe you, but she didn't even know I was psychic at the time. I hadn't gone public with that. And I could read her mind, and she was like, I believe her, but I think she's crazy. Who else can I tell? Oh my God, can we still be friends? All of these thoughts going back and forth in her head. And it was my sign to shut up and not say anymore. And I'd spent most of my life shutting up with psychic things that had popped in, because it can come across kind of arrogant and like a know-it-all when you just